Hey, boo. Hey, welcome back to Intentional Queen Podcast. I am your host, Janine. I'm a mindset coach and a self love expert, helping ambitious moms to alleviate overwhelm and self neglect so that they will experience more inner peace, more wholeness, and more confidence as they go through so they can never lose themselves again, right? So, I am so grateful, guys, to have you back when you were listening. We are now in 2024. Whoop, whoop. Birthday has passed. Girls, the big 4-0. I did let my email group know that the book will be coming out in February. So look out for it. It's going to be called I Choose Me, the intentional guide on never losing yourself again. Thank you to the email team and everybody who voted for the subtitle. So you won, boo. So that's what we got going on. People said, how will the book be presented? I voted with you guys, and you guys said, Janine, I need ebook and I need paperback. So I listened. So you'll be able to have both of those available. Stay tuned as I prepare to launch. If you look down in the show notes, I will leave a landing page for you to sign up to be on the book request list so I can let you know all the details. If you're not on the email list, I also have the Ready to Thrive 3-day free challenge. Is I send direct actionable steps that's going to help you boost your confidence and help you with activating mindfulness. And it definitely goes right to your email. And we talk about ways to help you get on track. So what? You don't never lose yourself again. So all those things have been going on. How are you feeling? How are you doing? This episode is 84, Time to Thrive and Prepare for Expansion, y'all. And I'm going to do a I Choose Me series probably all through January and February. So just notice that there is going to be a series. So you need to make sure that you are coming in, and I'll probably go to weekly. How about that? Just so we can go ahead and bring it on in. Let's not get off topic. I missed you. Last episode, I really dug deep into purging, releasing what doesn't serve you, talking about how we're wrapping up 2023, telling you what my top episode was of the year. And we also shouted out Dr. Charlonda Atkins on being the second running up. And man, it's just been going on. So I hope you're doing good out there. Have you thought about your word of the year? If you haven't, I want you to really start to think about it now that we're in 2024, because it's going to be like a compass. People say, why do you bring up the word of the year all the time? And it's because it's like a compass. When I think I do episode 85, I'm going to really dig deep and go through exactly what we're going to do for vision planning and goal setting so we could be ready. Because people ask me, how do I plan it out? And I'm going to definitely do a full episode. But not to get too far off track, let's talk about thriving today in expansion, okay? As we've been saying, purging what doesn't serve you. When you think about something expanding like a container, right? You got to be able to get rid of some things. So like around my house, I'm purging. I'm just releasing people. I'm releasing things. It's crazy because I was talking to someone and they were saying to me, Janine, it's hard to let people go, being your forever people. And truthfully, it is. But like a rose bush gets pruned back, when it gets pruned back, it comes back to flourish prettier. So let's not just look at the initial cut or the initial hurt. Let's just look at, is this going to be for me long term as I'm continuing to expand and do big things? And one thing I did is I applied to be in a particular women's community. They accepted my application and asked me to be an expert speaker within their cohort. So let's just say I'm blessed, I'm honored, and I'm going to give these women this good tea that I be giving y'all. People said, what is intentional? You have to define what is intentional because, the podcast is called Intentional Queen Podcast. It got birthed over 3 years ago now. And being intentional to me is doing things with positive intent. It means showing up as your best self. It means I'm purposely doing this for a reason, like a calling, like I'm doing this with good intent. And people can do things for the wrong intentions, but the goal is to have positive intentions because remember, baby steps lead to big leaps. And so when you get to a point that you can understand that just taking that baby step can be something that will add up over time, you'll be surprised at what will happen for you to get the expansion when you just really start thriving in the environment that you're in. And when we talk about in the past, I talk about think of it like Miracle Grow, right? I'm not really a green thumb, but when you give a flower or a plant more nutrients, it has the environment to grow. So when you realize that you're not thriving or growing or flourishing, it could be because you need to be in a different environment. And that's how we get back to purging what no longer serves you, because maybe in that environment that you were in, that is not what's going to serve you best for where you're going, but it served you well in previous lives or previous times, I should say. Closing chapters It's so hard. But when you're reading a book, a chapter has to end in order for a new one to begin. And I think sometimes people don't recognize when shifting is happening and they get nervous about the shifting. And this is when you have to grab your piece of peace and understand that God will stand with you through the shifting. You got to be careful what you pray for, because when you're praying for certain things, God will do it, but it may not come the way that you thought it was going to be. So just really get into a thing that you recognize you have to be intentional about how you're moving in these streets. I was watching this thing with Keon Henderson, and I thought it was so good. But I talk about eagles all the time. And if you go back, probably in I think it's called the SOAR series, SOAR series. I did it with my brother. It's probably 3 years ago. But look through the podcast and refer back to that. But we talked about eagles. I also did a whole thing when I was a speaker at another women's event. Shout out Erin King. And I did a whole talk on how eagles mate and did a whole situation. But what I want to talk about with eagles is what the mama birds do. This is what I'm telling you. You have to prepare for expansion. But with eagles, what moms do, right, is when they are creating a nest for their babies, they shake all their feathers and make it cozy. But under the bottom is thorns. And so the babies are able to sit on top of this nest because they're not that heavy yet. But as they get bigger, right, and they get nurtured and the mom feeds them and does all these things, guess what happens? They get bigger, and then now they sink down past the feathers and they feel the thorns. And at that point, it's up for the children or the baby eaglets to make a decision, right? If it's uncomfortable, you have to move, right? You have to move because you're getting stuck. And sometimes we get stuck, right? You see where I'm going with this? You get stuck in certain situations because you feel the thorn, you feel the pain, you get comfortable with the pain, but you don't want to move. The purpose of the mother eagle making it that way is to make you uncomfortable to get up and soar. So it's either you going to sit here in pain or you're going to get up and try to fly. And shouting out my mama on that, because my mama wasn't the handhold type mom. It was like, all right, I show you one time, I'll do it with you the second time. The third time, you got to do it, because what you're doing is you're instilling self-belief. And, as a mindset coach and how I really deal with that, the first step in my framework is believe in yourself. And so what the mother eaglet is doing, from what I'm looking at, that is getting her eaglets ready to thrive, right? So then they can expand their wings. See where we're going with this? To go ahead and do the things that they need to do. We are in 2024, which means it is time for manifestation of whatever you've been wanting. And I want to get you out of the funk, to start you off with a good note of getting your mind ready on what we're getting ready to do for 2024. So you need to get your word of the year together and prepare for expansion. So don't be like the eaglet sitting in the nest, sitting on thorns. It's time to put the wings out. Now, mind you, a baby may fall a couple times before they get it together. And I'm going to shout out my old mindset coach who used to say, you got to be courageous before you confident. And so the courageousness comes from the baby step. And that's why I tell you, baby steps lead to giant leaps, because confidence is in the leaps. Courage isn't just getting started and then doing it again. And don't worry about if people watch you fail, because guess what? Thomas Edison failed thousands of times, and he came up with that light bulb. So don't be stuck in criticizing yourself because you may have had some blunders. We all got flaws. We all got issues. Let's dig into some more. I thought about the word thrive, but I want to break it down by acronyms, okay? And so for the T, I'm going to say, talk nicely to yourself. And the reason why, I'm always talking about sexy talk. When we're talking about it's time to thrive, it's time to talk to ourselves sexy, right? If we're choosing ourselves, if we're believing in ourselves in a deeper level, if we're saying to ourselves, we're no longer going to suffer in silence, and we're going to show up as our full authentic self, then first, boo, you need to be talking to yourself nice. Positive self-talk is what it is. That means getting your affirmations together. I did a post on the self-love letter, and I wrote out 3 reasons why you should do it. And people definitely resonated with that message. You write that note. It could be an index card. I'm speaking to the overachiever. I'm talking to the perfectionist. I'm talking to the one that's doing everything for everybody else. Hey, boo, hey, you need to get an index card, post note, whatever, and you need to write down speaking positive affirmations over yourself. And definitely, if you are an entrepreneur, it should be your mission statement. What are you standing on? What's your why? Because this is what you're going to be ready. And then if you got an elevator pitch, it need to be written there too. Because at that point, you're channeling in. And shouting out one of my clients right here. And I said to her, we're going to shout out Pauline. Me and Pauline was doing some things in our coaching sessions. And she was trying to meet a $30,000 $50,000 month within her business. She's a mompreneur. And she was like, man, I just need to get this 10K. If I can get this 10K, she only had a few days shy of the month. And so we really mindset shifted on how can we make this possible? So she made sure to let me know at her next session that, Neen, I made 10K in a day from just working out your mental mindset work framework that you gave me in strategy. So what I'm saying to you is when you talking to yourself nice, because that was me putting that self-belief in her, that boo, if this is something you want to do within your business, what can we do to manifest what you want? And sometimes it's not always monetary. It's the value of what you bring to the table. It's taking a step back and making sure you're taking care of yourself. It is using your voice or using your tools, bumping up your productivity, channeling your mindfulness, because mindfulness to me is not all about yoga and things along that nature. Sometimes it's just grabbing your mental peace. What does that look like for you? So you can show up as your best self for you, your family, and anything that's attached to you. Let's go to 8. Have grace. You got to have grace for yourself in this space, because when you continuously beat yourself up or give yourself a negative narrative in the background, you won't continue to flourish because you are having negative ants, right? Ants are automatic negative thoughts that you're having that's replaying over and over, meaning I'm not worthy, or this is not good, or, whatever is negative. And at that point, I want you to refill that with something positive. We even do that in coaching when you're with me, and I'll make you end up journaling it out, because it's hearing it, it's seeing it, and it's reframing it, because change of perspective can really help you get through some of your adversity times, right? Because your time to thrive, you're preparing for expansion. Restoration. So the name of the podcast is Intentional Queen Podcast, but it's Journey to Restoration. What does that mean? That means wholeness. That means being complete. It means not walking around broken. It means healing up old wounds. It means getting to the root of all the things that are really bothering you. Is that old generational wounds that you're doing? Is it trauma that's happened to you? Is it people pleasing that happened to you? It's so many different things. Is it a life event? Whether it's a good life event or bad life event. Bad life event is death. A good life event is a birth. But sometimes just having a kid can cause you to have postpartum depression. But the birth is great. Like, it's just so many things that can cause you to lead you to overwhelm, can lead to the burnout. But you have to get to a point. How can I heal up? How can I have more self-love? And I thought this was really good too, that I want to insert. Well, two things I want to insert right here. One is, I think her name's Victoria Monet, and that song is Get It From My Mama. I was watching something on TV, and a pastor was talking about, really, that song was her going through postpartum depression. And her trying to look at herself and say, I'm gonna get my sexy body back, and I get it from my mama. And like, those were like her affirmations to herself for her bounce back, which I didn't know. But it's fitting right here is the negative talk, right? You see how she was reframing it and making it positive self-talk. She was talking to herself nice, right? And then restoration, she's trying to restore herself and just get herself back to one. And as you can see, she snapped all the way back. That's my song though. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was, somebody was talking to me about high blood pressure. And I was telling them, well, we got to get to the root of that. And they were asking me about a heart attack and all those type of things. For the people who don't know, when I'm not doing this, I'm a nurse anesthesiologist. And so, sometimes people come to me for some medical advice and some thoughts, but I was teaching them that I really care about your bottom number more than I'm caring about your top number right now, because the bottom number, your diastolic, is in relation to your heart at rest, and your heart gets refilled on the outside, meaning it gets replenished for itself when it's at rest. So if that number is high, it's not getting what it needs, right? And the top number is what is given to your body. So it's the pressure that's exerted to get the rest of the body good, which goes back to how we have to restore ourselves, how we have to have more proactive self-care, not reactive self-care, because when you take care of yourself, you're able to do more. So the heart needs its time to rest, to refuel, so it has more to give to the body. And so when you have a heart attack, it's because the heart itself did not get the blood flow it needed. So therefore it goes into distress, which then makes a long-term issue of now your whole body can't get what it needs because it didn't get what it needs. You see how we did that? So when I had that revelation, when I was talking to them, I was like, that kind of goes back to what I always tell you about. You have to serve from your overflow, because things are better when you're better. So when the heart is at its best peak, then the body is good. When you look at people who run all the time and all that type of stuff, do you know their blood pressure is low and so is their heart rate? Because it doesn't need a lot of demand. You know what I mean? It doesn't have a lot of demand on the body, but the supply is lovely. And so their heart rate is low because it doesn't need as much work. The heart doesn't have to work as much. So just really getting to a point understanding that when you heal and when you do what you need to do, you can give more. Intentional. We already talked about what I told you my definition is, but it's really when you knowing your purpose. That's what the I is for, intentional. And when you just have the integrity to know what you're doing and stand on your values, because I've been in many situations, especially when it came to adversity. And a lot of times people know who you are by your personality, but also what they know you stand on. You stand on the truth, you stand on loyalty, you stand on respect. You know, I was asked at another conference, what's your superpower? And I said intentionality in my voice. And I believe sometimes people just like know you by that. People reach out to me because of my voice. Like when I was out with my injury, I hadn't seen some of my coworkers for like 6 months. And I was walking down the hallway and people was turning around because they heard my voice before they saw me. And that's a message to somebody. I know I'm getting off tangent, but when it flows in, I just give it to you like it is. And it's that perspective of with Queen Esther. When you look at her, I don't know what the Bible verse is, but the crown chose her. Sometimes it's your voice that will save other people, and you can't be stuck not serving the people and doing your purpose and doing what you're supposed to do because you're meant to help other people. And your voice could be the thing that helps someone come through. You are now the blueprint for them. You are now giving them the tools. Everything you went through is preparing you for where you're going, but you're also helping people who are behind you in a space that you used to be in. So sometimes I reflect back on some of my hardships and say, maybe I experienced all these things so I could resonate with the people who are now going through it and to show them that you can get through it and come out on the other side. I tell people all the time, I don't look like what I've been through. And I talk really deep about it in my book because that was my way to have my voice and just get it down on paper. But one thing too, when you look back, it can be a little bit sad, but I don't want people to get stuck in the past. I want you to glance back, use it as a tool, and then push forward, right? When you are doing a rubber band, it needs to be stretched in order to have, right? When it's just laying by itself, it's not purposeful. A rubber band is only really purposeful when it is being stretched, and you have to be okay with being stretched, which is expanding, so that way you can hold on to the things that you need. Oh, that's a revelation, right? With the rubber band. E is expansion, but V is vulnerability. Okay. And so let's just run that through because I went kind of out of order, but God is speaking to me today. So this is going to be kind of disorganized. That's not my normal flow, but we're going to flow with it. T is for talk to me nicely, right? H is for have grace. R is for restoration. I is for intentional. V is for vulnerability. And vulnerability is courage. I talk about that too with Brene Brown. She has a book called The Power of Vulnerability. And I did an episode on that. I think that's like my second or third episode. I talk about vulnerability. That's a really good one if you want to go back and check it out. But it's really important to understand that sharing your story and not suffering in silence is something that helps other people. And so that's what I would say about vulnerability. Just have that courage to just step out because people going to judge you whether you're doing good or doing bad. And even when you start doing good, people may start spinning up off of you because their jealousy is deep rooted, but that's not your issue. So don't stop showing up for who you are because it make other people feel comfortable. Because that's one thing I used to do is shrink to make other people feel comfortable. So it's a fine line. And that's what gets into people pleasing because you do that because you want to keep everything neutral, but we not playing small. And like I told my client, we done with that. And then E, I said, is for expansion. And expansion is also showing up. I told you about the rubber band concept, but I also told you about you got to show up as your best self. Show up for yourself first and show up for them people that need you because we all have gifts, we have talents, and we have purpose. And so if you're not doing your role for the people, how they going to find you if you ain't showing up in the streets? And sometimes it is you got to get in rooms so you can show up too. That's a whole nother thing because I talked about that last year on the vision board party. And I talked about, how frogs with drinking and how they don't really like drink the water per se. They just sit in the water and soak it in. And sometimes it's just being in these environments. That's why I told you when this opportunity came for me to be an expert coach in this women's community, I was like, oh, snap. So listen, I'm ready to be like a frog in there and just soak it in. Give, but also soak it in because it's a good environment for me to thrive, right? It's a good new environment that's going to refill me, but also I got something to give, right? Like the heart, taking it all back, right? If the heart is good, If the heart is good, then the body is good. And forget what her name is. She's been a counselor with Sarah J. Roberts, but I think her book was a heart, and she talked about how the branches and stuff come over. I mean, it was real good. And I saw it. Oh, if I remember, I'm going to put that in the show notes. But it just came up to me when I was talking about the heart. And I just really want people to know, like, what's in your heart is what comes out. So really just try to keep your heart clean. Keep your heart clean. Who is that? That's deep. Keep your heart clean. That's it for this episode, right? I want you to get ready to thrive. I want you to prepare for expansion. I want you to pick out your word of the year. I want you to know that you need to be talking to yourself nicely. I want you to know that you need to have grace for yourself in this space. I want you to know that you need to restore yourself. Whatever it is, we got to heal it up. Heal them old wounds up, okay? You're bleeding on. I want you to also know that you need to have intentionality, vulnerability, and then we want to expand this thing because we're ready to get it done. Because what you're done with playing small, and you're ready to choose yourself more so you can flourish for 2024. Get ready for the book. I Choose Me comes out in February, so I will leave the landing page for you to sign up to get on the book list. And if you're already on the email list, I'll put out a reminder for you to just let me know if you want to be on the waiting list, but you'll get more information because you're already in the tribe. And that's pretty much it, y'all. I will see you guys soon because I'm going to go ahead and make an I Choose Me series because the email list already spoke to me that they wanted me to do a few more episodes. So I feel like that's what we're going to do. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Level up your intentional queen to a better you. Bye-bye.